Welcome to our Reading for Success night here at Kate Mitchell Elementary. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Charlene Mason, and I am a kindergarten teacher here at Kate Mitchell. I've taught here for 17 years, so I see a lot of familiar faces out there, so I'm really excited that you're here, and I'm excited to meet new people tonight. I am also a model and mentor teacher for our district, and I'm really excited to share our literacy program at Kate Mitchell with you. So let's get started by reading our vision for our Ames Community School District. Our vision is that we will meet the needs of all students to ensure that they are lifelong learners who are citizen, college, and career ready. Our mission statement includes that we will ensure that all learners develop the knowledge, skills, attitudes, values, and personal esteem necessary to grow and shape a changing society. Here in Ames, we provide our instruction under the umbrella of our 4 guiding questions. And so our guiding questions are, what do we want all students to learn? How will we know when they've learned it? How will we respond when learning has not occurred? And how will we respond when learning has occurred? So throughout the presentation tonight, I'm going to be referring back to these questions as I talk about what our literacy framework looks like here at Kate Mitchell. So we're going to start with, what do we want all students to learn? The Common Core state standards have been adopted by Iowa, and this is what we use to guide our instruction. In our district, we do have the essential standards, and these standards are taken from the Iowa core. So it's not in addition to, but it is part of the core. These are the standards that we have chose as essential for your child at that grade level. And we'll talk a little bit more of that as we move on. So the way that we use these standards is all standards are taught to your child each year. So you don't get to pick and choose, they're all covered. The essential standards are those skills that the teachers have decided we will teach this skill to mastery. Sometimes we say these are the standards we'll die on a hill for. So in kindergarten, one of the standards that I die on the hill for is teaching your child letter naming and sound ID. And then we report these to you and to your students. Your student's teacher works with their professional learning communities, or their PLC, commonly referred to develop high quality assessments based on these standards. So once the assessments have been developed, then the teachers continue to work in their PLC to develop the high quality instruction. So this is a little back mapping that we do. The standards were written K-12, and they were written with the end goal in mind. So what does it look like to be college and career ready? And then they were kind of sorted backwards, like if we want to know this, what do we would learn before that, and before that, and before that, all the way down to kindergarten. The same thing happens with our planning for our literacy instruction. We look at what our standards are. We pick the essential. Now that we know what's going to be essentially taught at your child's grade level, then we work to develop the assessments. And once the assessments develop, then we're going to develop the lesson planning. So what does assessment student learning look like for your child's teacher? Well, we have 2 types of assessments that we use most commonly. One is referred to as the CFA, or the Common Formative Assessment. So these are assessments that your teachers have created together to assess student progress throughout a unit. So you might think of these as like a quiz or a quick check, something that a teacher is going to use to guide their instruction. So I'm going to give an assessment on letters, and I'm going to look at what a student knows, and I'm going to decide which letters to teach next, or who needs more support with letters that I've already written or taught. A common summative assessment, or a CSA, is more often referred to as an end of the unit test. So if a child doesn't show mastery on this skill at the end of the unit, then they would still continue to work to show mastery on this if this is an essential standard. Our CSAs across the district have been written together, and we all give the same common summative assessments during the same time frame, using the same type of literature, in some cases even the same piece of literature, to ensure that the literature that you're using for the test has the same amount of rigor. So that basically all students in all buildings are being tested on the same skill at the same level. So what does it look like for students? At the beginning of the unit, the literacy standards are posted and reviewed with students. So the way that this is done is your student is told what the I can statement is for a unit. For instance, in kindergarten, I might say to them, kindergarten, today our I can is that I can name the characters and setting of a story that's being read to me. The students are also sharing what the application of the standard is to real life experiences. So why would I even want to know what characters and setting are in a story? And so we would talk about how your students are writers. And so if we can identify what a writer is telling us in their story, then that helps me to be a writer and to know that my story should have characters in a setting. Your student should always be able to tell you what their learning is. And this is something that Mr. Jeffs is really important to him. So when he comes into the classroom, he's looking for two things. He wants to know what the I can statement is, and he wants to know if the student can tell him what they're learning and why they're learning it. So how do we respond when learning has already occurred? And again, this is one of our 4 guiding questions. So if data shows that your student has already met the learning target for a current unit, then your student might receive additional instruction at their level above what is being taught to the whole group. So they would still receive the core instruction from the group, but then when it comes to the student practice piece, they might take that learning a little deeper, or they might do their learning independently instead of going through the collaborative process. This instruction might be planned in collaboration with the PLC members of the grade level, so the other teachers at the grade level, or it might even involve the ELP teacher. The instruction might take place in the classroom, or it might be outside of the classroom, either individually or even in a small group if there's several students that have met that current learning target. When a student needs additional teaching, as evidenced by their scores on their CFA or CSA, then they work with the classroom teacher during what we call an additional instruction time. So this is 30 minutes a day that is built into our schedule and allows the teacher to have extra time to work with a student to strengthen their skills. So thinking back to that common formative assessment, that common summative assessment, if there's a skill that your child's teacher knows is an essential skill to move on to the next level, and your child has not mastered it yet, and everyone else has, then your child's teacher is going to work with them during this time period. After some time with the teacher, if that is not helping your child to move forward enough, then your child would be assigned to a success teacher. So once a success teacher is assigned to work with a particular student, then we write a supplemental instruction plan. And once this is written, it is shared with the parents so that you can monitor the student progress along with the teachers monitoring the progress. In the case of English language learners, we do have an ELL teacher to support our work in all academic areas, not just our literacy, but also in the other academics that we're teaching. So they can help with additional support as well for your students. Additional student support at Mitchell takes on many forms. So we have a variety, I guess, of non-traditional supports in place for our students. So these supports include 2 after-school reading programs. These 2 programs are staffed by students at Iowa State University who are working on their teaching degrees. One is overseen by 2 teachers here at Cape Mitchell, and then one of the reading programs is actually overseen by a professor at Iowa State University. Then we do have a number of SALT volunteers, and these are volunteers that are volunteering through the SALT program at Cornerstone Church. And these students come each week for an hour, the same time slot each week, and they work with the students in a variety of tasks. We also have 2 AmeriCorps teachers who are working in our building to provide literacy support and literacy interventions based on the scores of our FAST testing. And then we do have some cross grade level support. So for instance, 2 years ago, my teaching partner and I, we went into a 3rd grade classroom every day for 20 minutes and worked with several 3rd graders who were needing some extra support in reading. We have a really unique teaching situation here at Cape Mitchell right now where we have 2 classrooms, soon to be 3, that are co-teaching. So what this means is that we have 2 certified teachers that come into the room for a time period of the day, and they actually co-teach the lessons. In one classroom right now, that's actually the entire day. And then the other two classrooms, one is for math, and the one that we're introducing soon will be just for reading. And then, like most elementary schools, I'm sure we use reading buddies across our elementary building. So students from other grade levels will come into the classroom and read with students to work on their reading. I want to go back to what success teachers are at Kate Mitchell and how that's funded, because it's often hard to know all these different things. We're throwing out all these acronyms: PLCs, CFAs, CSAs, Common Core State Standards. What does all this mean? So success teachers is something else, something that you know what it is that we've given a new name to. So success teachers are funded by Title I monies in the state of Iowa. So basically, success teachers in Ames are Title I teachers. These teachers are in our building, and they work to meet the individual learning needs of students by delivering either one-on-one or small group instruction for extended periods of time, and we have them for both reading and math. We do have 3 success teachers in our building currently. The success teachers can also come into the classroom and work with any student in our school because we are a Title I school. This happens most often at the beginning of the year when we're just getting to know the students, and we recognize that there might be some needs there. And so we'll have the teachers come into our classroom and support us during independent work time, or sometimes even co-teach a lesson with us and just help us to see what would be best for supporting student learning. Once the success teacher is actually assigned to your student outside of the classroom, then we would definitely let you know and write that supplemental instruction plan and share all that information with you. The success teachers do meet weekly with the classroom teacher to review student progress and collaborate on student needs. So this is something that is built into our schedule that we value greatly, and really helps us in working together and planning for instruction for these students. Our success program is a fluid program, and so once a student has met their learning goal, then they may no longer receive success support for a while, and we just keep track of their progress. And if they need it again for another learning goal, then we'll bring them back into the program. So it's not a program that once you're in, you stay in the whole year. It's a program that we are continually meeting each week to evaluate our data and see where the student learning is and what needs they might have. One question that we're often asked at Kate Mitchell, especially since we're one-to-one, is what kind of text are my students reading? Are they really reading books, or are they always on that computer? So it's important to let you know that we're using a variety of text. Part of the Common Core State Standards do dictate to us what genre of text to be reading with students. So we're making sure that we're reading fiction text and nonfiction text, and we are reading historical fiction, and we are reading poetry, and we are reading biographies. And so at the appropriate grade level, all those things are happening for your student. We do use books from our school library. Each classroom, kindergarten through 5th grade, has their own guided reading library, leveled library, just a library that is sorted in a number of different ways. And then we also have a book room here at Kate Mitchell that is full of multiple copies of books. So we would have like one book that has 6 copies so that a teacher could use those during their guided reading lessons. And then your teachers are using a variety of internet text with our students, just to allow them access to things that we don't already have. I do have some sites listed here, and those are on your handout as well. So Newsella, ReadWorks, BookFlix, ScienceFlix, TrueFlix. These are just some of the most common sites that are used throughout our building, but your teachers have probably been sharing with you some other sites that they're using. These are sites that are free for you to use, and you certainly can use at home. The huge benefit of many of these sites is that the text can be read aloud to the student. And so we know through research that students can comprehend at a level higher than what they can independently read. So this is a great way to help them kind of build their background knowledge on topics, and also to learn new vocabulary. And it's always exciting, like my little kindergartners, when they find that they can hear text that I don't already have in the classroom, or that they, like I have a little boy right now that loves the Titanic. And so he's so excited when he can find a new piece of information about the Titanic and get that book read to him. Also, volcanoes seem to be a biggie in kindergarten right now. So anything about volcanoes, I think my entire class has found it and read it. So that's pretty exciting for them. We do have, I just want to go through the core a little bit and talk about what the different standard groups are in the core. So there is a reading strand in the core. And so what this instruction looks like for your child kindergarten through 5th grade is a little different. So in kindergarten, the lessons really focus on the phonological awareness, the phonemic awareness, the alphabetic principle, decoding, phonics, fluency, and comprehension. So really thinking about, we're learning to listen to sounds. We're learning what the names of letters are and that letters have sounds. And when we put those on a page and we put those together, they build words. We're learning how to pull those sounds apart to do our writing. And then we're also learning when we think about like rhyming and how you, words that sound the same, maybe spelled the same. Then all those things go into the phonics instruction. And then also a little bit of fluency and comprehension because we are even reading at the kindergarten level. In kindergarten, our lessons also include an introduction to basic features about the way that text is organized. So, you know, where do I start on the page? Which way do I go? I start at the top, I go to the bottom, and reading from left to right. All those things are part of the kindergarten literacy for reading. In 1st through 5th grade, some of those phonological, phonemic awareness, alphabetical principle, and decoding skills may drop off. But then we're going to work on phonics, decoding, fluency, and comprehension at their grade level based on the text that their teacher is reading to them, and then also to what they're reading independently. And the core does tell us that each student is to be able to apply these skills to the grade level text that they'll be able to read. Then kindergarten through 5th grade, we do have kind of a structure for our whole class literacy lessons that I wanted to share with you. So the structure is that the teacher models the skill. And so this would be our whole group lesson. And then the students become practicing the skill under the guidance of the teacher. When the students are ready, they're going to collaborate with each other and practice that skill some more with a little less support from the teacher. And then when it is a skill that they are expected to do independently, then they're going to go practice that skill on their own. I do have on here when appropriate because many of the kindergarten skills say with guidance and support. So these are not skills that we would expect them to do independently. Then we have the writing strand for the literacy instruction. So in writing, it of course grows across the grade levels, but the expectations are much the same. So teachers are using a variety of texts to model writing style. So we're really teaching our students about the reader-writer connection and what it looks like to be a writer of nonfiction text and what it looks like to be a writer of fiction text and those types of things. Students are learning to write 3 specific genres of text according to the Common Core. So this would be opinion writing based on a response to a book, an informational piece based on research of nonfiction text, and they're writing a narrative piece of story which tells a story in a sequence. And then students are also learning, even at the kindergarten level, to edit their writing based on conversations with their teachers and their peers. So, of course, that looks much differently in kindergarten than it's going to look in 5th grade. But as they continue through their elementary school years, they're just getting a little better at this and going a little deeper with this skill. In kindergarten, it's a lot of, I really like your color, or I really like that you said this. And then in 5th grade, they're really giving some more meatier feedback and helping their peers to really produce a quality piece of work. Students are publishing their writing, and you've probably already seen some of this year. So if you're a kindergarten through 2nd grade parent, you're seeing this on Seesaw. We're publishing our writing through Seesaw and sending it that way. And then 3rd through 5th grade, we're using the Google Classroom to publish that writing and send it your way. Then we have the speaking and listening strand of literacy instruction. So for the speaking and listening strand, students are learning to have conversations with one another, and they practice these skills while talking about grade level topics and fiction and nonfiction text. And then the students are learning to talk about a message from an author and ask and answer questions about the text with increasing difficulty each year. So let's kind of pull that apart a little bit. First of all, we have our morning meeting every day, and we're learning to have conversations with each other. We are sharing, we're asking and answering questions about a peer sharing. At the end of the day, we're having a wrap up for the end of the day, and we're talking about things that went well. We're talking about what we're going to be sure to share with our parents at the end of the day. So we're just having good conversations about what's happening throughout our day at our grade level. They're also talking about text. So we are continually, as we're reading text aloud to them, we're asking them questions. We're letting them ask us questions. We're using our text to help us find answers. We're using our text to point us in the direction of new text. And so just really looking at that message that the author is trying to teach us and using our text to answer and ask questions. Of course, as your child is growing through the grades, this is getting more difficult each year. So the literacy teachers here at Kate Mitchell are working really hard each day, sharing their love for reading and writing with your student. It is our hope and dream that your student will continue to pursue reading and writing with great passion as they continue their academic learning. So as you leave tonight, I want to remind you to make sure that you get the handout that has the coupon to get a book from Scholastic, and then also to make sure that you are providing your email so we can send you the links for all of the sites that your students love learning at school. So if you have any questions, I'm ready to take those now.